it's on your mind, just get it done.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. As soon as I start thinking about things, I start actioning them as fast as I can because I don't want to forget about doing things too, right? So
Absolutely. Yeah. So you're in Vancouver?
yeah, I'm in Vancouver. I'm in South Surrey, White Rock. It's a
Oh,
suburb of
yes. Yeah.
just about a half an hour outside of the Vancouver area.
Nice. It's funny because anybody that's not from BC will just say that, oh, Vancouver.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's easier, right? Because most people, I mean, it's hard for people to get here, especially from out east, right? So most people don't know the areas and that. So
Yeah.
it's just easier to say Vancouver.
No, for sure. Well, thanks for this. And man, amazing journey.
Yeah. Yeah. It's been 4 or 5 years in the making.
Yeah.
Um, and now I'm just ready to kind of take it to that next stage, I guess.
Yeah. What made you say like, okay, it's time to take this thing to the next level? Was it just timing of life?
Yeah, timing of life. Well, I was dealing with my own mental health issues, right? And I was over the last 2 years I've been struggling quite a bit with my own mental health, and I've had issues pretty much most of my life as it relates to anxiety and depression. But they really got exasperated over the pandemic.
Of course.
And yeah, and then during that time, I didn't even really think I had any issues. I coped using alcohol a lot
Yeah.
as younger, but the pandemic really forced me to unplug and reflect on where I was, and I wasn't happy with it.
Mm,
So I wanted to start making some changes in my life,
yeah.
and that's kind of what started the process, wanting to make changes for myself to get better. And then through that process, I came to running and thought, well, if I'm helping myself, then maybe I can help other people at the same time.
Mhm. Did you quit drinking at that time or tone it down a bit?
Yeah, so now for me, I don't really drink much at all. I haven't really had like I wouldn't call myself an alcoholic, but binge drink. I used to do that quite a bit, like
Yeah.
on weekends or when you go out or whatever, right? But now it's gotten to the point where I actually don't even feel the desire to have a beverage, like because I've sorted out my mental health to the extent, at least I think so, where I don't feel the need to have a drink, and I've created more coping mechanisms
Right.
in my life, so I don't need that coping mechanism. I've created more tools for myself.
My little dog,
Ooh.
he's always staring at me with those beady eyes. Dad.
What kind of dog?
He's a French bulldog.
Nice, French bulldog. How old?
He's 6. Yeah. He's a little guy right here.
What's up, buddy? That's
Yeah.
awesome. What's his name?
Ari. I,
Ari. What's up, Ari?
yeah, so I
That's
used to
awesome, man.
watch a show called Entourage.
Okay.
Yeah, so I
Okay.
named him
Yeah.
after that Ari Gold, the super agent. So yeah.
Yes. So is your Ari very aggressive?
No, he's very he's the opposite. He's
Okay,
a
fair enough,
sweetheart.
man.
Yeah, yeah.
Awesome. Well, sometimes we need the sweethearts too, right?
Absolutely. Yes. He's a
Right
gentle
on, man.
soul. And oftentimes, animals, when they come into our lives, it's a blessing, isn't it? Or something or somebody that comes in your life, they're angels.
I think so, man. I think um yeah, I think especially I can relate to what you're saying there because over the last little while because I've been doing a lot of self-exploration. So no, I'm just to your point there, like how people or animals or things come into your life when sometimes you think you're ready for them, or even when you don't think you're ready. So like I've been on this journey of self-exploration over the last couple 3 years, and now I'm at a stage where I would consider myself an entirely different person than I was 3 years ago,
Mm.
both mentally, physically, and spiritually. And since that transformation, I've been seeing very people that probably wouldn't have come into my life before starting to come into my life and almost elevating what I'm trying to do and then helping along the process. So yeah, that resonated with me
Yeah.
what you just said there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
the other thing is, for me especially, because I live alone. I have this little guy. When you don't have responsibility, you live life a little differently and on the edge, not for the better. Like you said, the
Hmm.
binge drinking, that that was on weekends for me, and then started creeping up into my weekdays.
Mm,
And the pandemic just spiraled that for me as well. Because again,
right,
it's like, yeah, we're all in this together. Let's just have fun, right?
right.
Who knows where the future holds? And just months before the pandemic hit, my mom passed away.
Oh man,
Yeah,
sorry.
it would mess with you, right? And it's
Right.
like your pillar, mom's mom for me. And yeah, I was lost.
I can, man, that resonates with me. Not that I lost a family member that close, but feeling that sense of being lost,
Yeah.
not feeling grounded, and feeling like I was going through a period of like disillusionment and not knowing what was the purpose of things. Why are we doing things? And I was struggling also to find a, a meaning or a purpose other than working or a girlfriend or a wife or a child, something that's more long lasting sense of community. And think over the last couple of years when I was feeling alone and dark and struggling quite a bit, I found salvation in community and connecting with people.
Mhm.
And as much as I possibly could, I was trying to do that.
All right.
So because like yourself, I do live alone as well, right? And I live in a basement suite, so it's
Mhm.
it's not like I have like a lot of interactions kind of happening on a day-to-day basis, especially during the pandemic. So I had to create ways to get myself out of sort of the darkness, and running was one of them. Connecting with other people was another way of doing it. And through that process, man, like I started finding out that we're way more similar than we are different. Like
Yes.
all of us are connected in there's an interconnectivity, man, that I'm starting to recognize personally, and I never used to really think that way. And I never used to be that guy who used to, paid attention to synchronicities and these different sort of connections that make us connect together.
Yeah.
But as I'm in this journey now, I'm starting to keep an open mind and observing all these types of things, and they're all pointing me into the direction that I'm currently on,
Hmm.
which is a path of community, selflessness in terms of trying to help others with skill sets that I have,
Hmm.
and not chasing money, but chasing um, service.
Yeah, and when you do that, you find peace, enlightenment, light. These
Mm,
things that once we always thought was so far away from us, out of reach. And
mm,
oftentimes we didn't even think of it that way, right? Like life in terms of, hey, I can feel what that person's feeling, or compassion or empathy. Oftentimes that's not the case until you figure out who you are. What was your life like prior to this engagement within yourself, this self-awareness?
So I mean, I was so let's I'm about 180 pounds right now, and I was sitting a few years ago probably in and around 200. Bodybuilder, fairly big guy. I would say my ego was a little bit larger than it should have been.
Right.
Like a protection kind of mechanism based on my childhood and how I grew up.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, I wasn't inside internally. I was a good person, and but it didn't come out all the time in the right ways.
Right.
And I was aggressive in certain, like in communication like this. No big deal. But at any moment where I felt like I wasn't being valued or I wasn't being heard or my like I wasn't considered anything, then I would
Snap.
react. I would snap, right? And I'd get angry or I'd feel a certain way.
Yeah.
And I didn't understand what that was until I started working on myself.
Hmm.
And I just thought, oh, I was just that guy who'd just be like, oh, F you, screw you. I'm just going to do
Yeah.
my own thing. Like, I just thought that's who I was. But I was in a trauma state for most of my life based on a lot of the things that happened throughout my life. And, depression and anxiety start kicking in even further. And then you start isolating yourself even more, even though that that it's not supposed to be the thing that you're supposed to do, but you do it anyways because you're in that depressive state. So it just all just kind of
Hmm.
that's what I was dealing with. That was just a bundle of emotions that hadn't been processed correctly.
Yeah,
And I think over the last 2 years, I've been trying to process those things over the last 2 years, and I've squared away a few things. I'm not by any means perfect, and
no,
I'm
for
sure
sure.
I'll make a billion other mistakes moving forward. But I've squared away enough things to where I feel now I can speak to my story.
What was that point in your life where you said, I need to go within myself? This is not right. Because oftentimes, you know, that's that mask. Like, yeah, we're good. The ego, it's
Yeah,
that inner voice telling you, yeah, screw that person.
yeah.
You're on the right path. You don't need to listen to that person.
Well, I was forced to reflect because I was going through a separation and a divorce, right? And I was the squeaky wheel in that marriage. I wasn't the greatest husband. I thought I was. And I wasn't engaged in the manner that I should have been.
Mhm.
I I didn't really even understand what it was like, or what it should have been like to be in a relationship, because I never really experienced good relationships throughout my life. So I didn't even realize up until it just got smacked in the face. Hey, you're not that good of a person, or at least optically that's what it presents as. And so I was like, okay, wait a second. I don't like this. I'm a good person, and I don't want to come off like I am not one. And I want to do the right thing. So let me unplug here and figure out myself. And it was really like incremental steps. Like, it wasn't like, oh, this is what I'm going to do. I know I have a plan now. It's going to work out. No, it was just like, holy shit, where am I? Okay, let me just kind of gather my bearings and just slowly, step by step.
Yeah.
I did all the things. I went to a psychologist. I got therapy. I did the whole thing, and um, I ended up getting medicated. Like, it was like a lot of stress that was kind of happening. So I was forced to reflect because of the divorce, and
Yeah.
everything else kind of happened through
You
that.
know, man, it's crazy though, because oftentimes we have to own our own bullshit. And there's a point in life where it's like you're sick and tired of being sick and tired. Like,
Yeah.
why is life happening this way? Why is there always problems in my life? Why do I always have
Mm,
to apologize? Why am I always ending up at square one or in a negative in life?
mm.
Yeah.
No, that's where I was, man. I was like, it was like my entire life was a struggle, right? And I'm like, why is it always why? And I was like, you know what? I have the opportunity now to
Mhm.
just, let's sort it out,
Yeah.
square it away, and let's go.
But what a beautiful time. You know, I talk about this a lot is there were people that were very upset of the pandemic, and don't get me wrong, so was I, just so were you.
Mhm.
But that was a beautiful moment to go within yourself, because you're away from the rat race of life, work, chasing friends, chasing whatever. We were all forced to pause and figure out, who are we? Are we happy being within our own skin, alone? Like you said, at home. What are you doing? Now you're in your own thoughts. Are you okay or are you not okay?
I agree. I think if it weren't for the pandemic, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. To be honest,
Me too.
it forced me. It forced me to grind and like, I mean, I work in law enforcement, and at the time of the pandemic, we were doing sort of rotations where we weren't in the workplace all the time. So we would go to work for a couple weeks and then work from home for a couple weeks. This was at the beginning of the pandemic, where
Mhm.
we didn't really know what was happening. It was
Right.
uncertain of how risky it was. So we would be at work for a couple weeks, and then I'd be sitting by myself for 2 weeks in my basement, and then stewing the entire time because we couldn't go out, we couldn't do anything.
No.
So you're right. The pandemic forced some people to reflect, and I think um, hopefully there have been enough people to do that during this time.
Yes.
I don't know if there were, but I can only speak for myself, and I took that opportunity to go inward to address some things that I think needed to be addressed.
Right.
And since I've done those things, I feel like I'm a better person for everyone around me, and I can be a better service to
Mhm.
people with the skills that I have.
You know, not even everybody around you. Are you okay feeling within your own skin, looking at yourself in the mirror? Do you feel happy or do you feel at peace?
I didn't have any substance, or I didn't have any if something would really knock me down, it would keep me down.
Mm,
It just looked like I was solid. But now that I've done the work, and to answer the question about the peace, look, peace I think is an ongoing thing for me to kind of try to figure out. don't think I'll ever be old. We're at peace, and I don't know if I want to. I don't know. That's still a thing I have to think about.
Yeah.
But in terms of
Because there's a
am I
thing, right? When you're in, if you've lived your life in chaos, peace is scary.
right?
It seems boring. It seems too quiet. Ugh, is everything okay? Because now you start getting worried. Why is everything going right in my life? This shouldn't be happening for me.
So it's so funny you mentioned that, man. I feel like that almost every single day over the last 2 months because I've been kind of branching out a bit more, right? And a lot of positivity is starting to come my way that I never thought would ever happen, and it's very humbling. And for me, I'm still trying to understand how to receive it because I've never been good at receiving positive feedback or like compliments or things like that, right? And I suspect over the next couple of years with the journey that I'm on, it's gonna, I mean, brother, it's gonna be epic. Like I'll be the first person of color running across this country. When I was a kid, I always looked at Terry Fox, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Amazing,
What a
like
story.
amazing story. April 12th, 1980 kicks off, one leg, trying to do this marathon of hope. And that's what I'm trying to encapsulate. I'm trying to capture that. I'm trying to do the exact same thing for mental health. And this is just the beginning of that journey. But I think, that's a possibility because I think this country is divided to a certain degree. And I don't like getting into the politics and this, that, the other, whatever.
Right.
For me, I like to see positivity and I like to see people coming together. And I feel like the country is really waiting for something that would really galvanize everyone together. And I would hope that what I'm trying to do over the next couple of years can be one piece of that galvanization is what I'm
Mm.
trying to do. Does that make sense?
Oh, it does make sense. And the thing with this is, I will say, mental health and that conversation needs to be an open dialogue. Oftentimes people are scared to talk about mental health because fear of judgment. What will my employer think? What will my spouse or partner think? And or friends.
Mm,
And it's one of those things now that if you don't deal with it, if you don't talk about it, we know the outcome.
hmm
We Your actions will speak, and that will mess up things greater than you will ever have just said, "Hey, I'm not okay."
No, for sure. And like to that point about speaking about it, and look, I'm part of the Indo-Canadian community.
Yeah. So where
Um,
were you born? Were you born in
I,
Toronto?
I was born in London, Ontario.
Oh, no, Ontario. Okay. And mom and
But
dad are from?
my parents are from India. They were born in India, Punjabi,
Okay.
and so my mom left India when she was about 11, and she moved to England with her family. And
Right.
then my dad, he left India when he was 18 or 19, went to England to go to university. So I also have those experiences
Yeah.
and that sort of perspective. Like my dad, like he's 80. Well, actually, today's my dad's birthday.
Oh,
So he'll
happy
be,
birthday
yeah.
to your dad. Yeah.
So he's like 79 or 80 now. And he left India 60 years ago,
My goodness.
61 years ago. So now, as a person who likes to be compassionate now and
Yeah.
like who tries to be as empathetic as possible, I'm trying to put myself into my dad's shoes 60 years ago, what that would have been like for a person like that going to a country that probably wasn't really receptive to him
Hmm.
and still grinded, went to school during the day, working in a factory at night, got a master's degree eventually, and all the things associated to it. But he also had his own traumas based on all those things, right?
Yeah.
And what he's experienced, and also generational trauma being in Punjab. I'm not sure if you're aware of the history, but Punjab history is wrought with war and
Yes.
battle, right? So so there's generational trauma there. So there's no surprise that my dad probably imparted some of that trauma onto both my brother and myself because he didn't know any better,
Hmm.
right? But I think through experiences and the conversations that we're having now, I think it's incumbent upon people such as myself who are part of the Indo-Canadian community to speak loudly about it because we don't. We don't talk about it at all.
Because that is a sign of weakness, isn't it? It's
Right.
like
Yeah.
disgrace to the family.
Mm. Absolutely. Look, I was just speaking on a podcast a couple of weeks ago about this particular issue where I was a kid, just a kid, like
Yeah.
maybe 6 years old or something. My brother's 3 years older than me, right? And I think we all have, like my brother and myself, have some level of anxiety, I think, based on some of the way we manifest them. But my brother, as it would, and still to this day, taps his toe a lot, like just fucking taps it. Boom, 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 boom. And I used to be like, I'm very fidgety now, but back then, my dad ripped my brother a new one when he saw him fidgeting like that, and he said, "Don't do that. What are you doing? It shows weakness." I just heard my dad say it, and I stopped all fidgeting for the rest of my life. I didn't fidget ever, right? So now what does that do to somebody? Like just that one piece. Well, for me, how that manifested, and I only realize it now, is that I controlled everything, and it exhausted me every single day. That every fidget, every movement was controlled. And when I would have meetings at the workplace or meeting with management or these types of things, I'd be super composed, everything, but I'd be exhausted by the end of the day. And I'm like, but I'm still fit. I don't get it. What's going on? But the reality is this: I used to control all those things, and now I don't. So I feel like, so when you see me, I move around my hands. I don't quite look.
So what would it have been like before? So if we're sitting here, what would it have been like if you're?
I would have been sitting here just straight looking at you the whole time.
Okay. So
Yeah,
less expressive, less
yeah.
emotional, yeah.
Less emotional, more of a wall up, right?
Guarded.
More guarded, less vulnerable. I'm way more vulnerable now, like way more. Like the story I just shared about my dad, I wouldn't, I've just started sharing that.
Hmm.
Like there's a lot of things that I've experienced in my life that I've been on multiple podcasts, been about 15, 20, but I haven't shared a ton of stuff.
How did you find this podcast?
I started just searching for podcasts
Yeah.
because I wanted to get my story out and wanted to share the story. And because I'm on a path right now over the next 2 years, the training piece for me isn't the hard part, because I know how to train, and I have all the team together that's kind of helping me there. What I'm trying to do now is trying to figure out how to do what Terry Fox did 40 years ago.
For mental
That's
health.
Yes. So I'm trying to figure out how to effect permanent positive change. That's what I'm trying to figure out. And
Permanent
running
is the
across,
key.
yeah, and then exactly, and running across Canada in 2025 to raise awareness and break the record for the fastest run across Canada is just a means of me doing it. The running across Canada and breaking a record, I mean, it doesn't. I'm just doing that because it
Well,
gets
it's part
people's
of the
attention.
marketing and the branding that will get the
Yeah.
attention and garner the attention that's needed. Yes, of course, I
Absolutely.
get that.
That's the reason why I'm doing it. I mean, I'm a jujitsu athlete. I could have done jujitsu, but no one cares. I'm a bodybuilder, but no one gives a crap. So everyone understands running. Everyone can relate to running. Everyone understands how difficult running is. And Terry Fox did it 40 years ago. That's the epitome of affecting permanent positive change, because he's been dead for 40 years and he's already raised $1 billion for cancer research. That's what I'm trying to figure out how to do. And the reality is, with the help of many people around, being able to speak on various different podcasts, sharing the story, it'll happen.
Yeah.
It's inevitable, because I think we're starving for something like this.
Oh, yes. And the other thing is, I always talk about Bell Let's Talk Day. We have that
Mm,
one day where
mm,
everyone will say, hey, if you need help, reach out, which is great. But
mm.
that's only one day we're talking about it, because the rest of the time everyone's silent, suffering in silence.
So you know how bad it is? I've got a few statistics just as it relates to law enforcement and first responders, veterans and military personnel.
Right.
So just that one demographic, veterans, in the United States, every single day, 22 veterans commit suicide every single day. Now, that's not even law enforcement. Now, if you were to combine law enforcement, veterans, and North America wide, you're looking at a lot of people every single day committing suicide. Now, law enforcement officers in Canada, um, you don't hear a lot about law enforcement officers being shot in the line of duty. Although it does happen, it's not as prevalent as the United States. The issues we have in Canada are related to mental health in law enforcement. The suicide rate's still very high here. And because of the traumas that are experienced by law enforcement officers, or what they've witnessed throughout their entire careers, it builds, right? And I would love to also be able to give a voice to that piece, because I think
Right.
a lot of people in Canada don't really understand that plight. And Actually, I don't think anyone does, because every time I've spoken on this, most people don't realize that's a major issue and a major
For
problem.
sure. What do you think it is when it comes to law enforcement, especially officers or first responders,
Mhm.
paramedics,
Yeah,
anybody?
yeah.
You know, you're right. The mental health is at strain here. Uh, what are the reasons? Is it because they're seeing too much? There's no outlet for them?
So I think there's probably a combination of things. I can't speak to all the different
For
organizations because
sure.
they all have their own various different issues
Yeah.
related to them. But what I can see that's um, across the board is the support systems in the workplace are there, but they're not as robust as they should be, right? Number one. Number two, I think the infrastructure set up for a lot of law enforcement officers isn't there for the support as well. So, like, i.e., your management or your colleagues don't really understand how to interact with you. For example, I've been in law enforcement for 18 years, and through my struggles, right or wrong, most of my friends of 18 years are not there anymore, not because they hate or whatever, just don't understand how to interact with me anymore, or don't want to put the effort in trying to understand what's going on. So I think that's another issue. And then I think just the nature of the world we're in, a lot of people don't, or at least my perception is that most people don't seem to care about law enforcement that much anymore, because of a lot of what's happening in the media and what's
Mhm.
getting portrayed. So
But
I
oftentimes
want to,
people
yeah.
forget that, there's a reason law and order is there. And, you know, you guys put your lives out for our safety so we can sleep at night. Same with the veterans, same with any individual that's been there for us. So, the lack of is hard. It's hard for me and wrapping my head around it because I do have a lot of friends in law enforcement and yeah, what they see, putting their lives at risk,
Mhm,
families at home.
mhm. Well, it's also I want to add to that too, because like if we say putting their lives at risk, and in some circumstances they do, but I also don't want to make us that different than everyone else,
Yeah, but
right?
you're human.
We're human, right?
Because when I'm with my friends that are police officers, they're my friends. I don't,
Yes.
right? We're joking around and living our lives. Yeah.
But yeah, to that point, so that I want to humanize it too as well, right? Because yeah, we do. Some put their lives on the line based on specifically what their actual job duties are, for sure. But we also are seeing things that most people shouldn't see, right? And when you go to a call, let's say a paramedic goes to a call. I mean, how many calls do they go in a day that they've probably seen something that would probably traumatize 90% of the people?
Oh,
Almost every
yes.
day, almost every
But,
single day, right? Car accidents or overdoses or uh, all kinds of stuff.
right.
Just like
So,
when
so
as it
say a
relates
police
to,
officer, what would be an example of a police officer that we could
so
use?
a simple one, a super simple one. Let's say if a police officer is going to pull someone over for a speeding ticket. 5 years ago, maybe they had an issue pulling someone over with a speeding ticket, and now it's always in their head. Now, every single time that they pull someone over, they're going to be traumatized because of what happened 5 or 6 years ago, or 10 years ago, or whenever they first started.
Mhm.
That's just one example. But they still have to do their job, right? They still have to go to work. So it's a matter of trying to figure out how they can resolve those issues that they're having. And because I mean, PTSD is quite high in the law enforcement community based on it. So, say, for example, if you're getting pulled over in a vehicle, guy comes out and you get in a fight with someone.
Yeah.
Okay, everything gets resolved. 7 years later, you're pulling over a car that looks the same. Now you get triggered, and now you're going through that PTSD response. Your heart rate elevates, your blood pressure goes up. Nothing ever happens, but now you're at an elevated state for an extended period of time, for let's say 3 hours. Now, if that happens every single day, your elevated state, your heart rate keeps going up every single day, up and down, up and down. The rate of heart attacks starts going up for law enforcement
Your
officers.
health deteriorates, your mind deteriorates, and oh my goodness, yeah.
Yeah. So like
So,
for me over 18 years, I didn't like I was fine. Like for many years, no issue whatsoever. I mean, I compartmentalized a lot of my stuff from childhood and then from my 20s and getting to work, I was able to compartmentalize pretty
right.
decently. But then over like just 16 years, 17 years, and it was enough. The cup overflowed. and I just couldn't deal with that much anymore.
Yeah.
So I had to also take a step back to heal.
Yeah. When you, with your cause, why do you choose veterans specifically?
So um, I'm choosing veterans and first responders because I'm both. I also I have a deep connection with policing and with military because my family history. So now not in Canadian policing or Canadian military, but in the Indian Army and the British Indian Army.
Yes.
My grandfather was a superintendent of police in Punjab.
Okay.
My
And that was until
my
1947, right?
no, that he was after 1947. So he was
Okay.
still a superintendent of police. His grandfather, he retired in the 60s or something like that. But my great grandfather, he was in the British Indian Army. That was before 1947, and he was a second lieutenant. And then
Wow.
my great uncle, he retired as a lieutenant colonel in the British Indian Army, which is back then it was quite substantial.
For sure.
And then so I've also had an uncle, my dad's older brother. He was a colonel in the Indian Army, so I've had some history there. And I've always had a connection. I as a kid, I was pretty, like I was talking about earlier, I was kind of a shit rat. I wasn't doing things I should have been doing. My dad wasn't too happy with me, and he was like, "Go do something with your life." So I joined the military, and I applied to RMC. It's the Royal Military College in Kingston, Ontario. It's where they train officers, and I went there, but I still hadn't sorted out my mental health issues, and I was still drinking quite a bit at that time. So I did all my stuff, but then I ended up failing out of that school after about a year or 2 years, and then but that was the first connection with the military personally for me.
Mhm.
Yeah,
The veterans, I think I watched a video of you and some veterans giving you some shout outs. That was
yeah,
amazing.
man. I mean, it's pretty crazy. Like, so last November, 2021, I while I was during like to this 2020, I was trying to figure out how to stay alive, like just to be happy. I was just
Hmm.
running and doing things, right? And I wasn't a runner. I just started running 2 years ago during the pandemic. So I was, I never really ran. And so during that time, I just started running and I started utilizing my skills, which is like I'm pretty disciplined when it comes to certain things and I can really execute against once I get a task and I set a target. And so I was like, okay, you know what? I want to do something positive here. Let's run 100K. And I trained myself to run 100 kilometers on the 7th of November, 2021. And I ran from a town called Chilliwack to the
Yes, I
Vancouver
know.
airport. Right. And I ran, that was 100 kilometers. And I did that in under 15 hours. November 7th, I ran 100K and I raised $21,000 for the BC Yukon Legion for PTSD programs. So that happened, that's when I decided I'm making a shift because I did something for other people and I was like, you know what, I need to do more of this because this is where it's at.
Hmm.
And then this year I was new to running. So I'm like, okay, you know what? I need to figure out this running game. So let me schedule myself 8 ultra marathons for the year and then do them all and then raise money. So that's what I did this year. So starting in March, I did an ultra marathon March, April, May, June, and then pretty much every month. The last one probably you're talking about is where I ran from Abbotsford to Victoria, which was
Yes.
130 kilometers. We did that with a bunch of law enforcement officers to commemorate the 129 law enforcement officers that have passed away in the line of duty. And we ran 129 kilometers to represent that. And every kilometer we mentioned their name. Each day, this day was the first day we ran about 40 that. So it was basically about a marathon a day for 3 days.
So you
Yeah,
guys each kilometer said their name?
yeah. So it was about 20 of us, 15, 20 of us.
Yeah.
It wasn't supposed to be a race. It was just a way to kind of honor those that have
For
passed.
sure, yeah.
Because
And this is just in the
2 weeks,
BC and Yukon region? Okay.
no, so in BC, well, actually, all across Canada, there's something called the BC, well, not the BC, but the Law Enforcement Memorial, right? So all across the country on a certain day, they have memorials where officers have passed away all across the country and they just commemorate it.
Hmm.
Toronto does something and Ottawa and everywhere does a different thing.
Right.
We did ours over 3 days, and then there's a big sort of parade in Victoria where all the law enforcement officers got together, and there were march and stuff like that. It was the running piece where we ran from Abbotsford to Victoria, and we ran to, actually not Victoria, we went to the city, but we were running to the Bastion. And the Bastion is a monument that has everyone's name who's been killed in the line of duty. That's where we ran to. And we ran there, and it was, man, that was a pretty emotional experience because we ended up running with, we were telling stories. And then the last 10 kilometers, we ran with a gentleman whose wife was killed in the line of duty 8 years ago. So he wanted to join us for the last 10K. And yeah, it was pretty awesome.
You know, it's hard when you hear it, you know, in Toronto or in Calgary. We had that with Sergeant Harnett, and that was
Yeah.
tough. Um, line of duty. But why do you think there's this perception of like people not wanting to back the blue, or you know, there's a thin blue line that people are
Mm.
against, and I think I don't get it.
Well, I mean, I can only suspect a couple things. I mean, I think social media and the media have some element to do with that. And then I also think individuals who are consuming it aren't thinking critically enough. And they consume what they see as gospel and as a,
Right.
so most people don't try to vet the information that they're receiving, and they just believe it. I mean, look, my dad's 80 and he's got a master's in electrical engineering
Yeah.
from a university in England, and he believes things very, very easily. So I mean, I just think it's just people
Yeah.
don't practice critical thinking on a regular basis, perhaps.
Right. I mean, yeah. uh, The whole defund the police thing doesn't make sense either. But yeah, you
Yeah,
know,
no,
I will always back the blue.
yeah, I
There's
think
friends of mine, like I said, and just more or less because I know the stories of the mental health, and they're people too in
yeah, and
uniform.
we're all people. We're all just, look, we're just doing a job, right? And we're just want to be part of the community. Yeah, are we perfect? No.
No.
Right? Are we doing our best? Yeah, we're doing the best with what we got. And if people understood with what we're doing our best with and how little we have to do that, I think people would give us a little bit of leeway too.
Hmm.
Because it's not like we're highly funded. It's not like we have tons of people working the job. Like, and across every sort of law enforcement agency, everyone is lacking. Everyone on every level. And so that's, I think, and now this is me speculating over the next 5 or 10 years, I suspect that's going to get worse
Yeah.
because more and more people won't want to go into law enforcement, and more people will see it as a risk and they don't see the benefit of service.
Right.
I want to be able to articulate the benefits of service.
Interesting.
Serving the communities is paramount. It's absolutely important to serve the community, however you do it.
For sure.
However
So,
you do.
Sachin, so you would work at the airport,
Mhm.
and were you okay? So were you the guy that if I would bring my take off my belt and
So I was the guy. I was for the last 4 years. I was a canine handler.
yeah,
So I was running with the dog, and so the CBSA. So I was working immigration and customs.
okay,
So I would work in the customs hall where people would travel and they would come back into the country, and I would have the dog and I would just kind of do my searches and ask people questions and go from there. So that's like the sort of baseline job function of a border officer. But you know, there's other elements like any policing or law enforcement career. You can go into different sort of
yes,
parts of it. And I was more gravitated to like the interdiction of narcotics or organized crime or
hmm,
um, proceeds of crime, currency legislation, all that kind of stuff.
and
And
you probably saw a lot of it out there at Port of
yeah,
BC.
well, I mean, so yeah, there was a lot to be seen, and a lot of experiences, a lot of interacting with various different groups, cultures, communities. So I got to understand people at a very different level,
Yeah,
um, probably on a level that most people won't,
no,
because and the vast variety of types of people I've, because I was at the airport. So I've seen all kinds of people from all parts of the world, from all countries, and even through all that, similarities,
yeah.
this
Do, do,
interconnectivity.
Do you think it's we see too much and hear too much from our childhood till whenever, and that messes us up, or is it when you know too much and then you can't process and understand life?
Mm. Again, so from my experience, and I can only speak to my experience, I would say that's probably pretty accurate.
Yeah.
Most of my issues were from childhood, and they got exasperated throughout life, right? You know, my parents were strict, relatively strict Indo-Canadian parents, and you know, look, were they perfect? No,
Mm.
not at all.
Yeah.
But they did the best with what they had, right? And my dad drank, and you know, did he drink too much sometimes? Sure. Did he believe in corporal punishment? Well, most people from that area did back then. So yes, my brother and I did experience various different opportunities of receiving discipline. And so, look, I mean, that's just one aspect. I've experienced other type of traumas outside of the household as well. Um, Both physical and sexual in nature. I've had that experience too,
Yeah.
where where you know, for the most of my life, my self-worth, confidence, and self-esteem were in the dumps, and I pretended they weren't. Right. So here's how I think. So the only way to know to do better is if you know how to do better, and to do that, you have to learn, and you have to read, and you have to educate. Right. And
Mm-hmm.
my parents never did that as it related to kids because the egos were too big, and they said, oh, "Okay, this is how we're going to do it." Because no one understands this is how it's been done forever, and whatever, right? So for me, I have a daughter and she's 5, and I've had conversations with my dad because you know it's been somewhat difficult over the last couple of years because I've also expressed my feelings towards my parents because I wanted them to also understand where I was coming from, and we can
Mm-hmm.
kind of resolve things moving forward. And so yeah, I mentioned to my dad one time. I was kind of irritated with him, and he was like, why you hate us? Why are you so angry?" I go, "Look, are you sure you want me to answer that question?" And he was like, "Yeah, sure." So I was trying to explain to him very quickly what what he did was not appropriate. So I have a 5-year old. I said, "If I got my daughter right now and I give her a smack in the face, would you like it?" And he was like, he couldn't say anything, right? "And if I hit her real hard and yelled at her, would that be okay?" And he again ashamed. He knew where I was going with that, and I go, that's why I'm not too happy with certain things. I love you, and I love everything that we've, you know, you're my family, you're my father. I love you, but we have to acknowledge when things haven't gone right, and if things haven't gone right, just acknowledge it, and then we can move forward. But if you can't acknowledge something, you can't improve it, and you can't work towards a better position. So I made that comment. My dad was like, okay, it clicked in his head very quickly, and the conversation was
Mm-hmm.
over. I don't hit my daughter. I don't even, I have conversations with my daughter. And I don't, because I, look, I'm a big guy. If I raise my voice, she'll
Yeah.
get scared.
How tall are you?
Well, I'm not that big. I'm 5'10".
That's
Yeah.
still big and you're built, so
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I'm 5'10", about 180 pounds right now, and maybe
Wow.
around 5 or 6% body fat.
Are you gonna be the brown David Goggins or what?
Well, so here's the thing, brother. It's getting kind of funny. You're like the 10th person that has actually said that to me.
That's
I
so
don't know,
funny.
man, because I feel for me, man, like if I could follow a little bit in that footsteps, then cool. I'm not anywhere near on the level of an individual like that based on his experiences and being in the Navy SEALs. But having said that, I know I can get after it, and I know I can execute against a massive goal, and I know with the people I have around me and what's in my head, when it's done, everyone in this country will be affected by it. Everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll be a failure in my eyes if that doesn't happen. I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure what I'm trying to do is going to affect millions of people and raise a lot of money. And
Mm-hmm.
everything that I'm doing is geared towards that. YouTube channel is going to be geared towards that. So when that starts really over the next 5 or 6 years, start really developing,
Yeah. Have you
that money.
started posting stuff? You got to start because
Yeah,
it's a
no,
lot of
I'm
work. Yeah.
starting now. I've got about 10 videos up there slowly. I've been
Nice.
kind of posting, right? And that'll probably start ramping up even faster now because we're filming a documentary now, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the documentary is tracking the journey of me running across Canada. And
Super cool.
the documentary that's being filmed, the production company also will be assisting with the YouTube channel,
Yeah.
so we can start really pumping it out. And look, in 5 or 6 years, I want 1 million subscribers on that YouTube
Oh yeah.
channel, because we need to share the story. And once we start generating enough money on there, then I can funnel that into the charity as well. I
Hmm.
don't need a lot of money.
No.
I'm good with 50, 60 grand a year, right?
Yeah.
So just keep moving, help as many people as possible, share the message. Um, yeah, man, that's the entire direction I'm trying to go in over the next 20, 30 years.
So if you're not gonna, or if you're doing a career shift here, how are
Yeah.
you going to be able to eat and pay your bills?
So this for the last year and a bit, I've been working from home.
Yeah.
And I've been working really hard to ensure that I have the foundation set. So this year was foundational year. Next year will be the year where I springboard off to get some sponsors in terms of paying for things. So
Mhm.
I signed a contract last May with Magnum Supplements.
I saw.
It's it's a very large supplement. Well, it's a large Canadian supplement company. They service 40 different countries. They're based here in the Vancouver area. Um, very big company. And Marcus, the CEO of the company, was heard about me, and I reached out to him, and we had a meeting together last year. And our connection isn't really like a, hey, can I get supplements? It's a strategic partnership for the next 3, 4, 5 years, where he's supporting me at each level
Yeah.
through mentorship and through the connections that he has through his company. And then obviously with what I bring to the table, I have to also bring positive sort of media attention to him, because that's how I feel. He's an awesome guy. He's the first person that really believed in my vision and said, I'm all in, let's go.
Nice.
So yeah, so once that starts happening, I'll probably renegotiate the contract, start getting some decent payment from that, and then again, slowly keep moving in the direction of reaching out to getting the sponsors. And if I get, let's say $80,000 worth of sponsors, then I'm good, man. Like
You're good.
I'm good. Like I'm fine. And the reality is, Rome wasn't built in a day. I keep moving forward. I keep doing the exact same things that I'm doing. It's inevitable that it's going to turn out, the outcome will be amazing for not only for myself, but everyone around me. And then the extension of that.
When you're running in one of your videos, and I see this beautiful sweater with the poppy on it.
Yeah.
Where is that from? That was so cool, by the way. I loved it.
Oh, the Run to Remember shirts. So get this, man. So I made those shirts when I was training to run that 100 kilometers from Chilliwack to Vancouver Airport. And there's a good story behind that, actually, and I'm glad you asked me that. Thank you for asking. I made those shirts. Look, I'm not a wealthy person, as you can imagine. I'm leaving, I'm transitioning out of the workplace and doing a career change, so I have to be very frugal with my money and be very careful.
Sure.
But having said that, a really good friend of mine last year was going through some pretty serious medical issues and still kind of going through them. And I didn't have any money to support, like, help him out with some of the fees. So he's an amazing leader, and he was a retired RCMP member of 18, 19 years. He was a team leader on ERT, which is the emergency response team, the SWAT team of the Lower Mainland. So he's quite experienced individual, massive leader, all the things. And I made these shirts so that I can give him the money to help him out with his some of the and it wasn't a ton of money, but it was whatever I could give. And I wanted to be able to show support. And so that's why I made those shirts for a veteran. He's a veteran and he's also a first responder. He was dealing with some issues, and I wanted to help out the best way I could. Made some shirts and then gave him some money to help out. And that's
Damn,
what.
I love that shirt.
Thanks, man.
I was like, I gotta get it. I was looking for it. I was like, where is it online? I was like,
No,
where?
it's all sold out. Maybe I'll make some more. The quote on the back of it
Yeah.
by Heraclitus is a phenomenal. It's a phenomenal quote. I don't remember it off the top of my head, but it's repeated in various different leadership books. It's in a book by Jody Middick, who's a Canadian sniper with a double amputee. He's quoted that saying, and then also David Goggins in his book Can't Hurt Me. he quoted that phrase. Do you have it ready? I'd like to be able to read. Let me read it.
I was trying to find it. Yeah, sorry.
Stand by. Let me grab it. I got these shirts. I got a couple of shirts left. Maybe I'll send you one, man.
Oh, I would love that.
Yeah, send me when we're done here. Send me your address. I'll mail you.
Yeah.
One.
Oh,
Yeah.
thanks, man. Appreciate it. Let me know and I'll buy it from you. I would love to buy it.
No worries, buddy. So it says out of every 100 men, 10 shouldn't even be there. 80 are just targets. 9 are the real fighters, and we are lucky to have them, for they make the battle. But the one is a warrior, and he'll bring the others back.
Wow. Let's see. Hold it up. Let's see
Yeah.
let's show it. So that's
this is the it's like a shield with a poppy in it. It says "Run to Remember." The year was 2021, so that was last year when I ran it. And then on the back is the writing of the quote. And yeah, I saw that, and I think that quote kind of inspires me to be a better person every single day, to be someone that I can help other people.
When you start seeing that, you don't want to go back to that darkness because we know what it was like. The other thing is, anything that disturbs our peace now, we will literally push you away.
1,000%. So you and I are on the same page, bro. Well, listen, man, I learned very quickly through my friend Sean that without purpose, your life is meaningless.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And whatever your purpose is, whatever it is, just try to find what that is. So fortunate for me, I found a Sean Taylor, and he kind of helped me strip away the white noise to understand what I'm really capable of and who I actually am. Amazing person. He's an amazing person for sure. He's he became, after he retired from the military, he became a 24-hour solo mountain bike racer champion.
Wow.
Yeah, so he also became an endurance athlete in his 40s, and he started riding mountain bikes, and then he started doing 24-hour solos, and through that he became a world champion. Then over 15 years he trained other world champions, and then he's just a exceptional, high functioning tier 1 operator.
And he keeps passing it on, right, to people. Now it's your duty to take it to the next.
So
a baton.
Listen, so what he said to me, he was helping me a lot, and I was like, listen, man, I'm a brown kid. Why you why do you give a shit? And he would say, because you matter, number one. And number two, he was like, look, and I was feeling kind of guilty. I was like, you're investing all this time and energy into me, and like he was spending a ton of time with me, calling me, and you're spending a lot of this effort. And I was like, hey man, like, you're spending all this time and effort and energy. And he's like, yeah, I know. I'm not going to give you an invoice though. You just have work to do now.
Ooh, I love that.
So now I have work to do. So that's essentially exactly what you said, like, pay it forward, right? That's why we're here. And the piece where you're talking about chasing money, look, I was there too. I had a Beamer, I had the house, I had the whole thing. But now I'm like, wait a second.
And the payments with it.
Yes. Right. So now I'm like, oh, wait a second. I'm happy right now. Yeah. And I don't have any of that. I have maybe $30 in my bank account, and I'm happy. I'm happy. Now, I'm not 1,000% happy, but I'm happy on the process and the journey 100%. That I'm on.
Yeah.
And I'm so happy that I'm doing what I'm doing now, because I can do this forever, and if I can make a little bit, I'm good.
But bro, you know what it was? We were also from trauma, and you needed to prove something to somebody.
Yeah.
Right? Dad, look at what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Look, look at your son.
Yeah. Well,
nice car.
Honestly, man, I was always trying to do that, and I was doing it with the wrong things, because I'm meant to do what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
But our family doesn't, or historically, our cultures don't gravitate
towards
that. No, I agree, man. Honestly, bro, I really appreciate
thank you again, bro. Yeah, that was fun.
I honestly appreciate it, man. And anytime you want to give me a shit, man, I'm cool to talk to you whenever, anyway.
Thank you, bro. Yeah, keep me posted through your journey, and you're like, hey, Zach, I'm in this town. Let's just chat. I'd love that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'll be coming to Calgary. Like next year, I'll be traveling a lot more. Yeah. So I'll come to Calgary for sure.
Perfect. We'll get together and we'll go grab dinner and stuff.
Absolutely, brother.
All right, man. Take it easy.